Hi everybody and welcome to our first presidential debate of this year's presidential election. It's fantastic to have you with us this afternoon. Today's debate will be focusing upon UJS, JSocs, peer leadership and representation, and we are joined by three phenomenal candidates. This evening's debate will begin with some opening statements from our candidates. We will then pose questions to them submitted by you, the students at home, and then we will finish with some closing statements. And remember, please get involved with the election. Make sure once voting is open to go and vote to decide your next UJS president. So to begin with, starting in alphabetical order going down the line, Samantha, when you're ready, 2 minutes opening statement, please.
Hi, I'm Sammy. I'm the current Durham JSocs president and I'm running to be your next UJS pres. From coming from a non-Jewish school to Durham, which has a small Jewish community, I've always had to fight for my Jewish voice to be heard. I've helped grow Durham JSocs from having only 15 people come to Friday night dinners in my first year to having 50 plus people in recent weeks. I have helped create a safe and supportive environment, and I'd want to spread this all UK and Ireland wide as president. I bring a new and unique perspective to UJS, and I deeply care about Jewish students. In the past 20 years, there's only been 6 female presidents, and in the past 2 years, there's been no female candidate. I'm keen to advocate for female Jewish student voices. From being RSY leader to being CST trained, I deeply care and I'm a creative and confident Jew who wants to help support our community. My manifesto goes into 3 categories: community, working with JSocs, and supporting Jewish students. Due to the short time, I'm only going to focus on 3 main policies. Firstly, I want to create a Kahila magazine showcasing Jewish students' artwork and work from placement and internship. I also want to establish sibling JSocs, helping connect regional JSocs together and show and support each other through challenging times. Finally, I want to create a women's empowerment network to help Jewish students support and help each other and have speakers from our community come in to help. So will you join me and stand strong with Sammy?
Thank you very much. And Samantha, when you are ready.
Hi, I'm Samantha. I'm a final year history student at the University of Leeds, and I'm standing to be your next UJS president. In times like these, Jewish students need a president who cares about each and every person, someone committed to enriching their student experience through actions, not just words. I will bring positive and unique changes to UJS, fostering a safe and inclusive space for all Jewish students across our campuses. Right now, Jewish students are facing a unique set of challenges, from the rise of anti-semitism on campus, the frustration formed by the silence from our non-Jewish peers, and the difficulty in not being able to fully participate in student life the way you want to. I've engaged in conversations with students across the UK and Ireland, hearing their concerns and learning what I can do to make UJS better for them, for you, and for all Jewish students. By enhancing student opportunity, optimizing UJS operations, and ensuring proactive advocacy, I will make UJS a place where every voice is listened to and acknowledged, and I will place you back at the heart of it all. Throughout my university journey, I've been deeply involved in working both with and for fellow students. From traveling abroad last year, attending a university with limited Jewish representation and activity, I understand the difficulties in feeling underrepresented. During that year, I improved events and created resources for international students. In my second year, I served as Uni Chair for my JSocs, working alongside the SU to combat anti-Semitism. As the current social sec for Theatre Society, I've actively ensured that all events held are accessible for students with physical disabilities. I'm currently a member of the UJS National Council, so I understand the responsibility of holding others accountable and addressing student concerns. I recently became an NUS delegate, and I will use my Jewish voice to platform for Jewish students in an environment that sometimes overlooks and undervalues us. I'm also mental health first aid trained, and I understand the profound impact that mental health has on our overall well-being. I firmly believe in the transformative power of a strong, supportive community. Together, we can create this environment where every voice is heard, every identity is respected, and every challenge is met with collective strength and resilience. Together, we can build a UJS that reflects the rich tapestry of our Jewish identity and celebrate it. CAS can and will do just that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And finally, Josh.
The first thing I thought about when I sat down to write my manifesto was what's most important to Jewish students right now. Unfortunately, the last few weeks have made the answer all too obvious. Jewish students right now are concerned about campus being a safe space for us to be proudly Jewish. As I go around campuses, it's clear that so many of us are feeling abandoned and isolated right now. I've spent 3 years dealing with exactly this, fighting to make campus a safer space for you. Serious times need a serious candidate. In Nottingham, I've fought for students as both president and now campaigns officer. Nationally, I was elected onto the Scrutiny Council of the NUS, and I hold the NUS to account, something particularly important in the wake of the Tuck report on anti-Semitism. And I've worked part-time in public affairs for the Holocaust Educational Trust, balancing it with my studies. Online, I built up a following fighting anti-Semitism. I've advised CST and the Anti-Semitism Policy Trust on their social media strategy, and I worked with TikTok to improve their content filtering policy. Over the last 3 years, I've been in the rooms when these conversations have happened, and I understand the challenges the president will face. That shouldn't be all it means to be Jewish on campus. My manifesto outlines my plans to not just defend, but celebrate Jewish life on campus. Whether it's my plans for year of student sports, a women's plus stream within the industry networks, or ambitious cross-communal programming, my aim is for every Jewish student to have an opportunity to engage with their Jewish identity on campus, whatever that may look like. I've listened to you and what you want to see from UJS. So vote for Josh Cohen and help me to put the U in UJS.
Thank you very much, everybody. We will now move on to questions submitted by Jewish students across the country. And the first question is, how do you plan to support international students? Whoever wants to start off. Go on, Samantha.
Yeah, so I spent a year abroad in a really small university in upstate New York. So I have experience as being one of few Jews in a world filled with people who don't understand what that means. I had to work by myself. There was no external Jewish organization near where I was that could help me. So I had to work by myself with the student union to make sure that my voice was heard, to make sure that I was acknowledged and treated with respect and care as a Jewish student. Furthermore, I had to travel to other universities that had a larger Jewish population to speak and meet Jewish students and attend kind of Jewish events that weren't established at the university I attended. This was really frustrating because I was met with a group of students who already had formed connections with each other. They already knew each other from the societies that they had joined, and I felt like an outsider. I don't want this to be a common thing within the UK and Ireland. I don't want Jewish students to feel like they're an outsider because they didn't grow up in a large Jewish community and they didn't grow up in like a Northwest London Jewish bubble. And therefore, I believe it's really important to facilitate collaboration between JSocs. I think it's really, really important to ensure that international Jewish students are heard, that during holiday time when other students might be going home, they have adequate resources provided. And I think it's really important to make sure that they're listened to and valued.
Yeah, so when I was writing my manifesto, and I was focusing on the community bit, I kind of broke it down into local, regional, national, and international levels. And with the international levels, I really want to reach out and like focus on how to bring people in, especially in Durham. Like we get a lot of international students, as do a lot of unis, and especially in Scotland. So I think it's really important to reach out before, and like along with like UJS, like reaching out to unions across like internationally for Jewish students and helping get involved, because it's like silly to assume that only UK and Ireland like universities have students from UK and Ireland. So I think reaching out before, like improving UJ6 to have like bigger like outward, and it's not just UK schools, it's also international schools, any like Jewish communities outside. Like I really want to work with them, and like particularly I want to like reconnect back with the European Union for Jewish students and like work with them more to make sure that we are collaborating, because I think there's a lot we can learn from each other.
So I agree with both of you. I think it's very important that there's an element of focus on international students. I think one thing I'd like to do, which I think would help us as well, is I'm keen to reach out more and to collaborate more with the international student unions, whether that's EUJS, whether that's UJS. I think that allows for, by making everything we do, or by making a significant part of what we do more international, it means that for those international students, they can feel a bit more at home. If we have European students and we're collaborating with UJS, whether it's sort of sending delegates over or bringing delegates over, I think that's a good way to make people feel at home. And by making UJS's kind of network wider, it means that the people within UJS who come from those wider fields, I think, will feel more connected.
Thank you. Who's your biggest Jewish role model?
So for me, like, it's like I've always been thinking about this, and like I could go like really like outwardly, could go really inwardly, but I think for me, Lauren Kalis, she ran for UJS First a few years ago. She went to the same school as me, and she like has now, she didn't win UJS president, but like she took her experience and she ran with it. She created an online platform called Swipe Left to Hate, where she like it's like promoting online and like how hate comments affect people online. She now works with the Anne Frank Trust. Like, she's just done so much, and coming from like the same school I went to where there weren't that many Jews, to like doing so much and like doing like the most for the community, I just think it's so inspirational, and like has always pushed me from being like a young girl fighting for my Jewish boys at school, and watching like this like big older sixth former like do her thing, to now like watching her like grow up and like be like this incredible role model. Like, I just think she's amazing and would love to like be half as great as her.
Josh?
So my grandmother was born in India. I can't remember exactly which year. I can do the maths. But she moved at the age of 14 to Israel. With the collapse of the British Empire, things got much harder for Jews. So she got up with her school and she moved, and she set up, or she I mean, age of 14, so it wasn't just her, but she moved to Israel and she lived on a kibbutz for a few years, and these were very much her formative years. And I think at this time it was very difficult. It would have been very easy for her to build up this kind of like protective, sort of harsh outer layer. You know, you have this kind of Sabra stereotype. But then when she moved to the UK, she met up with the rest of her family, and she met my grandfather. But all through her life, the one thing people have always told me about her, and the one thing that I remember about her from my childhood, was her warmth and her openness. The shul that she was part of set up an official role for her, the shul welcomer, because she'd stand by the entrance, and every single person who came in, it was as if you made her your sort of personal friend. And I think a lot of the time you hear from these kind of big motivational things that leadership is about this and leadership is about that. And I think we miss a lot of the time that sometimes the biggest things we can do to help build Jewish communities and help make Jewish communities stronger is just be that little bit softer, that little bit kinder, and be welcoming to every single person who walks through our doors.
So we are here in the UJS office, and if you were to win the election... Oh, I'm so sorry.
Don't apologise.
I remember Joel Rosen making exactly the same mistake as fan last year, so...
It's okay. It's funny because my role model is also my grandmother and my mother, and my grandpa. Really, just my whole family has just been incredible, supportive, incredible. Yeah, my grandma and my mum have been so incredible in terms of advocating for Jewish education and supporting Jewish students, specifically in secondary school and primary school. My grandma was somebody who knew everybody, and I don't know how to explain that, but she just knew every single person. And it was one of those things where you walk through her door and she had about 1 million photographs all on the walls. I cannot explain it, except you'd have to go and visit her house. And every single time someone would visit, she would make sure that a photo of them with her was front and center, to make sure that they felt welcome and included in the conversations that she was having. She would talk about their family. She would engage with what they've been doing. She would teach them and help them. And she'd always provide like a delicious spread of different foods. She was there for everybody. And she taught me incredible values about what it means to be a Jewish woman, what it means to love and to give, and to always be kind to other people. And I think that's such an important attribute to have.
My mum and grandma would be so annoyed at me.
Thank you very much.
Lauren's gonna love it.
Yeah.
So we're here in the UJS office, and if you were to be elected as UJS president, you arrive on day one, what's the first change you're going to make to the organisation? Starting with Josh.
So my big change I'd want to make is, it's one of my key manifesto points. I want to bring in a membership services package. We're first and foremost a membership organization, and the thing that we claim to do on our jumpers is to sort of represent and be the voice of Jewish students. And I think fundamentally, in order to do this effectively, we need to reach out and we need to show what we can do for Jewish students and bring as many Jewish students under our umbrella as possible. So that would mean that basically I want people to feel more of a connection to UJS as an organization. I think we've done very well at connecting to committees. I think we need to do better at connecting to students and directly on that student level. So that means membership cards. It means frequent contact, whether it's as annoying as everyone hates them, sort of updates emails. That means potentially exploring the possibility of discounts at sort of popular Jewish establishments and sort of the establishments that students like to go to with those membership cards. It means everyone having access to an online portal. And ultimately what it is that by everyone having the UJS logo in their wallet, in their pocket, they know that UJS is there for them. They feel that connection to UJS and they know what UJS can do for them.
Samantha.
So I was gonna make a meme, and I sent it to a bunch of people, the people on my team, and they thought it wasn't funny. But I was gonna turn UJS into a Dojo Mojo Cast House, if you've seen Barbie the movie. But no one really liked that idea, so I probably wouldn't be doing that. The first thing that I want to do is I really want to, as Josh said, outreach and make sure that everybody's voices are heard, and to ensure that there is a good connection between Jewish students and their SABs and the president. One way to do this is to establish office hours for the president and for the sabbatical team, so students who have concerns have an easy form way to reach out and connect with their sabbatical officer. And it's just a great way to garner connection. I do believe that UJS are doing incredible things with committee, but sometimes students just want to reach out and maybe they have an issue with their JSoc or they have an issue with something happening and they just want a first point of call to reach and connect. Another thing I want to do is rewire the UJS website. I think it's great, but I think sometimes it needs a little bit of reframing. I think the UJS JSoc pages should all follow kind of a similar pathway and guidelines so that all information is easily accessible. I think sometimes it can be quite frustrating to navigate the website. And finally, I want to utilize partner organizations. For example, Jewish Care exists in this building. Why not use them to help us alongside CST, Keshet, Jewish Women's Aid, to encourage collaboration and to minimize duplication and to encourage students and provide them with the correct resources.
So the first thing that I want to do is I want to kind of rework the sub roles a bit. So I want to reintroduce the Israel Engagement Officer, and I also want to introduce a female empowerment sub role. This will really help with what I mentioned in my opening statement about creating that women's empowerment network to really showcase like strong female Jewish voices, which I think we've been missing the past 2 years in UJS, especially let alone in the past 20 years. Agree with what the others are saying about like making people feel welcomed. And I think a really key way of doing this is making sure that from the start, the sibling JSocs that I've talked about are being worked on, like over summer before uni starts, having them made and organized so that they're already connected, the two execs, before they go into the uni year. So plans are starting to be made, connections are being made, with the support systems are in place and they can help each other. So yeah, I really think that's important. Like we've been doing it in Durham, like we've connected a lot with Newcastle JSoc because we're 13-minute train ride away. It was silly that we hadn't before, and like we have an exec group chat with both our execs, like we support each other, especially recently, and it's just been so nice. So I think it's such a key thing, and if we'd have had that like in summer, we would have been able to do so much already, like more already than we already have. So I think that's a really key thing to get that in and start it from early on.
Great, thank you very much. Now, I'm sure you all know UJS's core values. If you could change any of them, which one would it be and why? Starting with Samantha.
Oh my gosh, I remember watching this, like hearing this question on the hustings. That's a really good question. I think each of the core values hold a really important place in my heart. And I think one thing that's really important is Israel engagement, but I think I would make it global engagement. I think something similar that someone mentioned last year as well. I think it's not just important to enhance our understanding of Israel and celebrating certain aspects, but it's also important to reach out and engage with international Jewish organizations such as UJS to foster an inclusive and welcoming environment. And it will encourage Jewish students to meet a wide range of people and celebrate our culture in a new way.
So,
agreed with what Samantha said. I think they're all really important. The one I would probably most likely change is peer representation, peer leadership, just because I think it combines representation and cross-communalism quite like well together. And I'd probably replace it with something like a bit more like community and outwardly focused, like with like something to Olam, like something like that, to like give back to our community. Like within my manifesto, I talk about creating Tikkun Olam days like termly. So I think they're really important to give back to your community. So I'd probably replace peer leadership with that.
Josh?
Mine's slightly semantic. I'd like to change peer leadership by getting rid of the term peer. Because I'd also like to see from UJS a bit more focus. I don't think it just has to be, you have either a peer leadership refers to the way that JSoc is run by volunteers, and I think it's one of the most amazing things. I was brought up in a family where my parents, both in quite strong leadership roles, cut their teeth in JSoc and actually met through JSoc as the sort of co-chairs. But I'd like to see, I think we have an opportunity, especially with the strength of UJ6, not just sort of leading our peers, but also being mentors and being role models to younger Jewish or to Jewish high school students, Jewish secondary school students before they've even made it to university. And I think also we have an opportunity to lead sort of wider than just JSocs.
So what would you replace it with then?
Just leadership.
Okay, thank you very much.
I told you it was semantic.
So right now, I'm sure everybody is aware of the unprecedented rise of anti-Semitism on campus. What would you do to make campus a safer space for Jewish students?
So one of the key things, and I think it's not the easiest thing to hear at the moment, and it's not always the kind of flashiest, sexiest thing. We have an amazing campaigns team. I'm sure you two have both had the same. We've had a huge amount of support from UJS over the past couple of weeks. I've been dealing with campaigns things in Nottingham, and the UJS team has been really useful. So as well as I've spoken about my experience with that, and as well as continuing that, I think one thing we can really do just to make campus safer, especially in the long term, is through interfaith work. By building relationships with other communities, and especially with other minority communities, not only does that make campus, it means our kind of networks of friends and our networks of people who are looking out for us and who are helping us out are wider. It also means that we can work together with those minorities. Those minorities also face their own kind of racism. I know recently, well, actually not so recently now, CST have been working with the Muslim community in combating Islamophobia in a similar way. I'd like to see us doing a similar thing with ISOCs, with other faith societies. I think sort of faith-based, while it's not the be-all and end-all of anti-Semitism, faith-based racism and kind of the racism and the discrimination that these minorities face is very similar to ours. And if we all work together, we can make campus a safer space for everyone.
I think one thing that I found, especially in the past few weeks, is that one thing that brings all students together is our love and celebration for various activities. Last Monday, I had the privilege of attending a barbecue following the Leeds and Birmingham sports match, and it was just incredible to see Jewish students coming together, celebrating just their Jewish identity in a way that doesn't have to talk about being Jewish. It's just like a common understanding that everybody shares, and everybody was having fun, everyone was chatting, everyone was just having a great time. And I think the incredible work that students are doing in kind of encouraging and fostering creative diversity. Student sport not only enhances people's love for sports, but it also enhances, celebrates graphic designers and managers and journalists. And one thing that's really important about this is, as Josh mentioned, it can also provide kind of an interfaith way. By celebrating theatre and sports, you're playing football with a variety of other different societies who have a variety of different experiences, playing against an ISOC football team, and just kind of celebrating each other in a way where you can just learn about each other in a brand new form. And I think celebrating our diversity, celebrating our culture, fostering an inclusive environment will then encourage and expand people to start having and engaging with those conversations with other people. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, so I completely agree with what Josh and Samantha have already said. And just like building onto that, like I think communication, like with SUs, with like other Jewish students, like standing together in unity with like other faith societies is so important. Like in Durham, we've already been pushing for that. So I met last week with the president of Islamic Society to work on like bringing our two communities together, even like in the most challenging times as we're currently in. Like, how can we like stay together, like stand together and like show our support? And it was like the most incredible meeting ever. Like, and like it was just amazing. Along with that, like I've already worked with SUs. Durham SU was one of the 5 unis that signed the UJS pledge. Like I pushed for that, and I like pushed our SU president, and I said like, you need to sign this. So I think keeping that communication going, along with that, like connections and like connecting with each other. In my manifesto, I talk about having like sober socials more playful to create safe spaces. I also talk about having like a continuous update on the buildings and on security, and working with CST to make sure that campuses are safe, like that JSoc houses are safe. So I think like working together and just pushing like to create a safe space and like to create that interface through sober socials, like making sure buildings are safe, like and like talking to SUs, I think is really important. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And you've all individually been involved in Jewish campus life to an extent. What is your toughest moment you faced on campus, and what has been your proudest achievement?
Yes, so my toughest moment is that Durham's quite like is such a small community. We've never had to like outwardly have security at our Friday night dinner. Like we obviously keep it safe, and like we're in a university building, we have it at a college. But like we've never had to get security, and then in recent weeks we had to make the tough decision to ask the university to provide us security to make sure that we could like continue to have growing numbers, which was like a really challenging thing, and like it was something that we never wanted to have to do. However, like having this, it kind of leads into my proudest moment, is that because we had this, like the first Friday after 7th of October, we had the largest Friday night dinner we've ever had. It was beautiful, like everyone came together, everyone stood together, and it was just amazing. So like the toughest moment was having to get security, and the proudest moment is just the way I've been able to like create this safe and supportive environment as Durham JSoc president for Jewish students at the moment. Like being one of the 5 SUs to sign that pledge was just like incredible. I remember my dad messaging me being like, have you seen the Times article? Durham was in it. And I was like, oh my God, what have they done? Like, this is going to be bad. And then it was that. And I was like, thank God. Like, it was just so lovely to see. And I think I just like so proud of like how Durham JSoc has like stood together, stood with the union, and like really created a safe space for everyone.
Yeah, so I was chair of my JSoc in kind of that first and second year, and it was kind of during that limbo period of COVID where we were reintegrating students back into kind of a more in-person community experience, which was really lovely to see, because one of the challenges that we faced was engaging Jewish students to become involved in Jewish society when they couldn't necessarily always meet in person, and encouraging and creating events that would be accessible to all students to be able to join online. One thing that also kind of came about during this period was there was a lot of anti-Semitism on specific Facebook group chats, and a lot of Facebook groups that were kind of promoting anti-Semitic ideas. And one thing that I did is I worked collectively with the student union to gather all of these reports and send them off to ensure that Jewish students felt safe to actively engage on these group chats and to actively feel safe on campus. In terms of my proudest achievement, this is something that was really exciting, as it was one of the first events that we really put on that really reintegrated everyone back into kind of like an in-person event. Was we hosted a Hanukkah party outside of the student union that brought together so many Jewish students, but also non-Jewish students who just wanted to see what Hanukkah was all about, to watch us light the Hanukkah candles outside, eat some donuts, talk to each other, have a great time. And it was just incredible because you had the Hanukkah, you had a Christmas tree, you had like a little tent that kind of served hot chocolate and other cute beverages. And it was just a really great way to see kind of a huge community of individual people celebrating light, love, and community. And I'm eager to bring this positivity and student-driven activity back into UJS.
So my toughest moment, I have to say, is not like a lot of sort of what I've done as campaigns officer has not been kind of the sexiest thing. It's a lot of the stuff that happens behind the scenes. But there was kind of a Thursday night, Friday morning where we were told about a pretty nasty extremist cleric who'd been invited to speak in Nottingham. Somehow it had slipped through the SU's policies. They kind of hadn't seen it. Basically previously made some pretty nasty statements and was very likely to make similar kind of homophobic, sexist, anti-Semitic statements. And that was there was just something thoroughly unpleasant and isolating about sort of not receiving that support from the SU and not getting much back while simultaneously kind of seeing from a fellow society that they were more than happy to just kind of disregard us and kind of when we communicated with them pretty much just kind of ignore us. But at the same time, I think kind of I'm immensely grateful for UJS to support that, because it was one of these. I'm sure anyone else who's worked on a committee can kind of, especially in a campaigns position, can kind of relate. It was one of these like slightly chaotic things where it's coordinating emails, and it was kind of trying to find a way to get it sorted sort of before Shabbat, while I was on a train, before the event happened on that next Monday or Tuesday, and in the end we managed to kind of get it. I think it was eventually postponed and just didn't happen. But kind of just get across the message that what the ISOC were doing and what the SU were allowing was endangering Jewish students on campus. I think that was one of my toughest moments. My proudest moment, slightly more sexy, was the JSoc ball. It was just amazing in a year where we were kind of still just about trying to grow again after COVID. We were still kind of trying to piece together what was left of our JSoc after a couple of years in no in-person events. It was just amazing to see the event we've run with the biggest turnout in a long time, and to see, you know, at the moment we've all talked about the horrible stuff that's going on and the campaigns work we have to do on campus and how isolating it can be, but to see everyone coming together was just amazing.
Thank you very much. What would you do to support small JSocs? Samantha?
Me, Samantha. Yeah, so one thing that I think is incredibly important with small JSocs, and I've spoken to quite a few different small JSoc students, and that's linking them with other members of the local Jewish communities nearby, facilitating and providing partnerships with other organizations. Sometimes it can be really difficult. As someone who goes to Leeds, there's a lot of already established kind of partnerships and areas in which Jewish students can not just attend JSocs, they can attend like Chabad and Aish and get involved in other ways. The small JSocs, that's a lot more difficult. Firstly, the chaplains probably aren't centered in that area, which makes it incredibly difficult for them to kind of be able to have regular Friday night dinner and Shabbat services necessarily. So encouraging outreach with other Jewish communities, both progressive and Orthodox, to ensure that there are spaces for everybody if they want to partake in that, in kind of like religious services as well. I also think it's really important to, again, collaborate with other JSocs, encouraging kind of, one thing that I want to do is I want to implement a specific grant that will encourage collaboration between JSocs from different regions, from different areas, to facilitate a more inclusive environment where everybody gets to meet each other. I want to do this in Ireland, I want to do this in Scotland, I want to do this kind of in England as well. I want to do this all over, and I think it's really important to establish connections in a way that we get to meet a huge variety of different students and support small JSocs in that way.
Josh?
So again, one of my kind of key manifesto points is I think I've had the great pleasure, and basically I I've loved this campaign because it's just an excuse to go and like chat to random people from random JSocs about like, yeah, JSoc. But I want to keep the conversation going beyond this campaign, which is why I'll set up an advisory group, not just for small JSocs, but also for remote JSocs. Because I think one thing I found is that in the past there have been more small JSocs, and that I've spoken to people where two years ago, maybe when I was first getting involved in UJS, they might have been referred to as a small JSoc. They've actually grown, you know, thanks in part to the help of UJS. But a lot of these still have the similar problems in that they're remote. They don't necessarily have their chaplains around them. They don't necessarily have those other organizations to help them. And so while small JSocs and remote JSocs have different goals and aims, I'd make a small and remote JSocs advisory group, which will meet on a regular basis, so that not only can I sort of, you know, carry on the conversations that I've been having with these JSoc presidents, these committee members, these students throughout the campaign, but I want that to kind of keep going with UJS. I want UJS to have that platform to continue hearing from them, hearing from each other. I think is very important, and seeing how best we can support them, not just now, not just sort of at the beginning of the year, but throughout the year and throughout our work.
Yeah, so obviously as Durham JSoc president, I am the president of a small JSoc. Like as much as we've grown, like we are still relatively small. We're also in the northeast, which is far away. Like I understand how smaller JSocs feel, and I understand how more remote JSocs feel, because I am one. And like I think like there's so much more that we can do. I would take my understanding as JSoc president into this role and like really use the skills I've learned. Some of my ideas, like with the sibling JSoc, connecting them, that like helps with connecting them and like supportive. We've done it with Durham and Newcastle, as I said. Like I know how it feels, like I know the struggles we face, like being far away, feeling like, oh, people don't care, like they don't want to come see us, we're too far, like the 3-hour train journey, like it's too far. And that's just not the case. We're just as important. Small JSoc supremacy, like literally love us. And I also think, like listening to like what the other two said, like I do agree, like it's important, but I think there are so many more challenges which people don't understand, that small JSocs, when you've been in one, you can fundamentally understand the most. For example, Durham, there is no outward Jewish community. Like there is no other like areas around us, unless we were to go to Gateshead in Newcastle, which is like impossible for us to do on a Friday night, because we'd have to organise travel, we'd have to organise where we'd stay over. Like we can't go to a Chabad rabbi. Like our Friday night dinners are catered by the singular kosher college in Durham. Out of 17, there's only one, and that's where we have to go. That's the only way we can do it. So like I think like partnering with other JSocs is so important, and listening to other small JSocs is so important. But like it is a challenge. Like we're lucky that like our chaplaincy is incredible, and he supports like our like head chaplain supports us along with all the others. Like we meet him the whole time, we meet all of them. Literally, they're like my favorite people ever. And they really support us. So I really want to promote and like prioritize like working with chaplaincy to make it a stronger like support system, and how they can understand, because they're great when they know, and like when you talk to them, they really get it. And like yeah, I think like a lot of my manifesto really like focuses on like small and growing JSocs, because it would frankly be ridiculous if I didn't. But yeah, I just really understand. I know the issues they face. I know the challenges of having no Jewish community like surrounding you. We've had like staff members, we've had alumni who have stayed in Durham reach out to us and ask us like if they can come to Friday night dinner, especially recently, because they just like, they're like, I'm missing having Jews around me. And obviously we're like, of course, come along. Like it's great. We love having them. And it's like, we are like Durham JSoc is the Jewish community to anyone, and like we're who people come to as students. And I think like celebrating that and like strengthening that is so important. Something I would prioritize in the role.
Thank you very much.
So
So we have time for a couple of final questions before we go to closing statements. A quick fire question which has come in: Latkes or Hamantaschen? One word answer. Josh.
Latkes all the way.
I hate raisins, and sometimes
You have to push you.
like the chocolate almond.
Thank you.
Lactose for sure.
Amazing. One final question before we get to closing statements. What is one thing that you admire in the other candidates you're running against for UJS president? Starting with Sammy.
I think like all three of us are just incredible, and like as an overall like thing, I think like I was saying this to someone on Friday that the three of us as like a co-president would be like such a dream because like we've literally written a motion together for UJS like conference, like we work so well. So I just like really admire like your strength. Obviously, love your name, it's really great. But like I just like I really admire the fact that you both are listening out, like you're reaching out to smaller JSocs, you're not ignoring us. That's like me coming from Durham JSoc person, not as a candidate. And like I just think like both of your manifestos and like everything is just great. Like I think you both have such admirable qualities. Like I think it's gonna be a tough decision.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, in the past I've had that like UJS presidents tend to bring each other down. In fact, like we've all been bringing each other up. Like when we each have a concern, like we talk to each other about it, we address it head on. And that's such an incredible quality. Like great listeners is what I can say. We're all incredible listeners. Me and Sammy have a lot in common, which is kind of really cool to see, like share the same name. We both like theatre, which is so cool to see. And again, like I just think I love each of your manifestos. I think you make incredible points, and I think it's so important to hear from smaller JSocs, to hear from larger JSocs, to hear from people all across the region, UK and Ireland. And I think that you're both doing an incredible job. And I think again, it's great. Like three presidents.
I've got an easy answer. I love the name Samantha, but no. I think you both. I know. I think you both bring this kind of passion to it that I just love, and I think I see, like it's been one of the amazing things of like speaking to various students is that there's, I wonder if also especially in the last few weeks it's come up more, but like this just like energy and this enthusiasm that I just love to see in sort of other people just caring about Jewish communities and getting excited about it.
Amazing. Thank you very much. We're now going to turn to closing statements. You guys all have 1 minute each, and we're going to go in reverse order. So I believe that is starting with Josh, if I remember correctly. So you have 1 minute starting from now.
So you've heard my extensive experience fighting anti-Semitism and campaigning for what's important to you. You've heard me share my policies on interfaith, on membership services, on how I'm going to reach out to small JSocs, to various different underrepresented groups, how I'm going to reach out to international students. You've heard my plans for how I want to make UJS better than ever before. I am the candidate with the experience and credentials to lead UJS. You've heard my plans to both defend and celebrate Jewish life on campus for every Jewish student. I've listened to you and what you want to see from UJS. This campaign is about you, so vote for Josh Cohen to put the U into UJS.
Thank you very much.
From the age of 7, when I was interviewed by CNN about the importance of the Jewish American girl doll, to right now as I stand to be your next UJS president, I've always expressed my love for my identity, and I've always educated individuals on the values that I bring as a Jewish woman. More importantly, I understand the frustrations that so many Jewish students are currently feeling on campus, and I really will bring change and make positive changes to UJS. Through my 3 key policies, enhancing student opportunity, optimizing UJS operations, and ensuring proactive advocacy, CAS can and will change UJS for the better. I'm committed to prioritizing students, placing them at the center of UJS activity. I believe that constant communication and resource delivery will ensure that all Jewish students can rely on UJS. When enriched student activity facilitated by efficient operations, we must proactively empower, platform, and represent all Jewish students externally. CAS can and will. Thank you.
Thank you. Finally, Sammy.
From going from a non-Jewish school to my small little Durham JSoc community, I have always had to fight for my Jewish voice. You've heard about how I pushed the Durham SU to be one of 5 unis to sign the UJS pledge. You've heard about how I support interfaith through meeting with the Islamic Society prayers. You know I have a strong urge for female empowerment and a women's empowerment network. I deeply care, and I bring a new and unique perspective through my 3 main categories on my manifesto: community, working with JSocs, and supporting Jewish students. I want to stand strong in unity, stand with Jewish students. So please join me and stand strong with Sammy.
Thank you very much. And that concludes our first debate for the UJS presidential election for this year. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch. Voting opens today at 6:30 p.m. So please make sure to get involved. And as I said, aside from the presidential election, there is so much going on right now. UJS convention happening the 8th to the 10th of December. We are nearly full, so if you haven't signed up yet, please make sure to sign up. And again, as always, times are tough right now. We are here for you. Stay in touch, stay well, and we look forward to seeing you very soon. Thank you very much.